Question: what is the difference between crime, deviance, sin, and vice? Do you believe that crime is one of the major social problems in Pakistani society? Discuss. Answer. 1. Conceptual distinctions. Crime refers to behavior that violates a formally enacted rule, laws, and is punishable by the state. For example, homicide, theft, and kidnapping are crimes under the Pakistan Penal Code. Intentional homicide in Pakistan was 4.335 victims per 100,000 population in 2023, with 10,729 recorded killings nationwide. Deviance denotes breach of social norms, informal rules, which may or may not be codified. Deviant acts include swearing in public, unconventional dress, or same-sex relationships. Deviance is relative. Behaviors tolerated in one culture can be deviant in another under the same legal regime. Sin is violation of religious or moral codes prescribed by faith communities. In Pakistan's Islamic context, consumption of alcohol is a sin, irrespective of whether it is criminalized or not. Under hudud ordinances, alcohol consumption is both sin and crime, but in many Muslim-majority contexts, private use may remain a sin without legal sanction. This covers habitual, immoral, or unhealthy behaviors, such as gambling, drug addiction, or prostitution, that communities deem corrupting. Many vices overlap with crime, e.g., drug trafficking, but may also describe legal yet socially frowned-upon practices, e.g., pornography in some jurisdictions. 2. Theoretical perspectives. Strain theory, Merton. Crime emerges as a response to the gap between culturally approved goals, wealth, status, and legitimate means to achieve them. In Pakistan, rapid youth bulge and unemployment can foster innovation in the form of illicit gains, theft, drug trafficking. Social disorganization theory, Shaw and McKay. High-density, heterogeneous urban areas with weak social control, e.g., Karachi's informal settlements, experience elevated crime due to fragmented community ties. Karachi's neighborhoods like Malir and Oranji report disproportionate levels of street crime. Labeling theory, Becker. Once an individual is labeled criminal, they may internalize that identity, leading to recidivism. Police corruption and over-policing of marginalized groups in Punjab or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa can stigmatize youth as delinquents, perpetuating a cycle of crime. Conflict theory, Marxist criminology. Laws reflect the interests of the powerful. Crimes of the elite, white-collar corruption, tax evasion, may be under-prosecuted, while petty offenses by the poor are harshly punished. Pakistan's Transparency International ranking, 140th of 180 in 2024, underscores systematic corruption at high levels. 3. Crime as a social problem in Pakistan. Empirical data and lived experience suggest crime is indeed a major social problem. Violent crime. With a homicide rate of 4.335 per 100,000, 2023. Pakistan exceeds the Asian average of 2.04, on wikipedia.org. Major cities bear the brunt. Lahore recorded 379 murders, 500 attempted murders, 2,650 abductions, and 55 rapes in 2019. Organized crime and terrorism. The Golden Crescent's opium trade generates an estimated $4 billion annually. Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa face militant insurgencies, while Karachi's turf wars between ethnic gangs drive assassinations and extortion. property crime and corruption. Burglary, carjacking, and fraud are widespread. Pakistan's police are often cited as the country's most corrupt institution, undermining trust in justice and fueling vigilante violence. Gendered violence. Honor killings and domestic abuse remain endemic. NGOs estimate hundreds of honor murders annually, though official data underreports these cases. From a public policy standpoint, crime erodes social capital, deters investment, and hinders development. Applying routine activity theory. Weak guardianship, e.g., understaffed police, motivated offenders, youth unemployment at 80.6% in 2024, and suitable targets, unsecured businesses, converge to perpetuate crime. Fourth conclusion. While sin, vice, and deviance cover moral and normative dimensions, crime uniquely entails legal sanction. In Pakistan's complex social fabric, crime intersects with poverty, political conflict, and weak governance, making it a pressing social problem. A multi-theoretical approach, combining strain reduction, job creation, community strengthening, urban planning, and anti-corruption reforms, is essential to mitigate crime's multifaceted harms. What is the meaning of anomie? Discuss Robert Merton's theory of anomie in detail. Answer. Anomie is a sociological concept describing a state of normlessness in which individuals feel disconnected from the collective conscience of society. Coined by Emile Durkheim in the late 19th century, anomie arises when social regulations break down or when cultural aspirations outpace institutional means to achieve them. Under conditions of anomie, people experience confusion, alienation, and a sense that traditional norms no longer apply. Robert K. Merton extended Durkheim's concept in his seminal 1938 paper, Social Structure and Anomie, arguing that modern industrial societies cultivate an inherent disjunction between culturally prescribed goals and the socially structured means to attain them. Merton's theory, often termed strain theory, identifies 5 modes of individual adaptation to this strain. 1. Conformity definition. Acceptance of both societal goals and legitimate means. Example: a law-abiding citizen pursues a college education and a stable career to achieve middle-class success. Fact: approximately 70% of U.S. college graduates report following a standard educational-to-employment trajectory without criminal involvement. Second, innovation definition. Endorsement of cultural goals coupled with rejection or unavailability of legitimate means. Example: an individual resorts to drug dealing to achieve financial success when faced with limited job prospects. Statistic: in 2023, the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics estimated that nearly 18% of drug trafficking offenders cited economic necessity as a key motivator. Third, ritualism definition. Abandonment of lofty cultural goals but rigid adherence to institutionalized means. Example: a low-level clerk remains dutifully employed, yet has resigned to a meager standard of living. Illustration: surveys show that up to 25% of workers report going through the motions without expectation of promotion or significant financial gain. Fourth, retreatism definition. Rejection of both societal goals and means, leading to withdrawal or escapism. Example: chronic substance abusers or homeless persons who disengage from mainstream society. Fact: the National Alliance to End Homelessness reports that over 40% of chronically homeless individuals struggle with comorbid substance use disorders, reflecting retreat into alternative worlds. Fifth, rebellion definition. Rejection of existing goals and means, coupled with a desire to replace them with new ones. Example: political extremists seeking to overthrow capitalist structures in favor of a radically different system. Case in point, the rise of anti-establishment movements in the 21st century, such as Occupy Wall Street in 2011, illustrates collective rebellion against perceived economic injustices. Merton's typology demonstrates how differential access to opportunities produces strain, which in turn channels individuals into divergent behavioral paths. From a theoretical perspective, strain theory bridges macro-level social structure and micro-level individual decision-making, showing how systemic inequality fosters deviance. For instance, in neighborhoods with unemployment rates twice the national average, property crime rates can be 1.5 to 2 times higher, underscoring how blocked institutional access correlates with innovation and retreatism. Beyond crime, anomie also relates to broader social malaise. Durkheim linked it to elevated suicide rates. In early 20th century Germany, regions undergoing rapid industrial upheaval recorded suicide rates up to 30 per 100,000, compared to a national average of 15 per 100,000. Merton's framework enriches this understanding by highlighting that normative breakdown not only spurs criminal innovation, but also fuels psychological withdrawal. In contemporary criminology, Merton's anomie theory remains influential. It underpins policies that aim to reduce structural strain by improving education equity, job training, and social welfare. Evaluations of such interventions show that communities with expanded vocational programs experience a 10 to 12% reduction in youth crime over 5 years. By recognizing that deviance often reflects societal contradictions rather than individual pathology alone, Merton's theory continues to inform both academic research and practical strategies to foster social integration and reduce crime. Define the term juvenile delinquency. Write a note on the history of the juvenile justice system and the role of the juvenile court in reducing juvenile delinquency. Answer definition of juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency refers to the engagement in illegal or antisocial behaviors by individuals who are under the age of majority, typically under 18. Legally, acts such as theft, vandalism, drug offenses, or violent crimes committed by minors are classified as delinquent acts rather than crimes, reflecting a system that treats youth differently from adults. Criminologically, juvenile delinquency encompasses both status offenses, behaviors prohibited only to minors, such as truancy or underage drinking, and index offenses, serious crimes like assault or burglary. Theoretical perspectives. Strain, Mertonian. Theory argues that juveniles experience pressure to achieve societal goals, e.g., wealth, status, but often lack legitimate means. This strain may push them toward delinquency as an alternative route to success. Social control theory, Hirschi, suggests that strong bonds to family, school, and community inhibit delinquency. When these bonds weaken through family conflict, school failure, or neighborhood disorganization, youth become more prone to offending. Labeling theory emphasizes that labeling a child as delinquent can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Stigmatization by peers, schools, and even the justice system can increase recidivism. Social learning theory highlights the role of peer influence. Adolescents learn and reinforce delinquent behavior through group norms and modeling. Facts and figures. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, in 2019 there were approximately 795,600 juvenile arrests for all offenses, with property crimes accounting for 43% and violent crimes 12% of those arrests. Globally, the UNODC estimates that youth under 18 comprise roughly 10 to 15% of the prison population in many countries, though exact percentages vary widely by jurisdiction. In Pakistan, juveniles under 18 made up around 4% of the male prison population as of 2022, highlighting both underreporting and diversion into informal corrective measures. History of the juvenile justice system. 1. Early foundations, 19th century. In the US and UK, the Industrial Revolution saw dramatic urbanization, overcrowded slums, and child poverty, prompting concern over street urchins. Houses of refuge, e.g., New York's 1825 institution, began as custodial schools aiming to reform rather than punish children through work, religion, and education. 2. Birth of the juvenile court, late 19th, early 20th century. On July 1, 1899, Cook County, Illinois, established the first dedicated juvenile court, explicitly separating youth cases from adult criminal courts. This model spread rapidly across the United States and beyond, emphasizing informality, individualized justice, and rehabilitation over retribution. 3rd, mid-20th century to present the Juvenile Delinquency, Prevention and Control Act, 1968 U.S., codified federal support for prevention programs and due process rights in juvenile proceedings. Later decades saw tension between rehabilitative ideals and get-tough policies, with some jurisdictions raising juvenile prosecution ages for serious crimes. Role of the juvenile court in reducing delinquency. 1. Rehabilitative focus. Juvenile courts prioritize treatment, counseling, probation, educational and vocational training replace or complement detention facilities, such as youth development centers, offer cognitive behavioral therapy to address risk factors. Studies show such programs can reduce recidivism by up to 25%. 2nd, diversion and community-based programs. Many jurisdictions employ diversion, informal handling of cases outside court, for first-time or low-level offenders, cutting costs and avoiding stigmatization. Community service, family group conferencing, and mentoring leverage local resources. Evaluations indicate that community-based sanctions achieve similar or better outcomes than secure confinement for nonviolent offenders. 3rd, procedural safeguards and specialized personnel. Judges, probation officers, and defense lawyers receive specialized training in adolescent development and trauma-informed approaches. Procedural differences, closed hearings, no jury trials, aim to reduce the adversarial nature of proceedings, encouraging cooperation between all stakeholders. 4th, data-driven policy and early intervention. Modern juvenile courts increasingly rely on risk needs assessment tools to match interventions to individual profiles, optimizing resource allocation. Early warning systems in schools and communities identify at-risk youth for preventive outreach, aiming to curb delinquency before court involvement is necessary. Question 5. In Pakistan, the creation of a police force is a colonial legacy. In which circumstances was an independent police force established in the pre-independence era? What major changes have occurred in the police department in Pakistan? Answer. The origins of Pakistan's police can be traced directly to British India's response to the revolt of 1857. In the aftermath of that uprising, the East India Company and subsequently the British Crown determined that a centrally controlled, professionalized constabulary was necessary, both to deter future rebellions and to consolidate colonial rule. This resulted in the Indian Police Act of 1861, which centralized authority under provincial governors and district magistrates, creating a strict hierarchy of commissioners, superintendents, and inspectors. Adopted a paramilitary structure, with emphasis on discipline, drills, and armed patrols rather than community engagement. Was justified under a conflict theory lens. Policing was designed primarily to suppress native dissent and protect colonial economic interests rather than to serve the populace at large. Under this act, separate presidencies, Bombay, Madras, Bengal, and later provinces, Punjab, Northwest Frontier, Sindh, established their own police forces, each reporting through the Indian Civil Service. Recruitment criteria favored loyalty to the Raj, often drawing on martial races theory to enlist communities perceived as trustworthy. By 1947, the province of Punjab alone maintained over 70,000 officers serving a population of some 18 million, a ratio of roughly 1 to 260, far above the modern ideal of 1 to 500. Key developments include 1. Legal and Administrative Reforms Police Act Adaptations, 1948 to 1960. Pakistan inherited the 1861 Act with few changes until the 1960 Police Commission, led by Justice Ghulam Rasool, which recommended greater provincial autonomy and the separation of investigative from executive functions. Police Order 2002, General Musharraf. Introduced after widespread criticism of political manipulation and human rights abuses, this order abolished the office of District Police Officer, DPO, under the District Nazim, created independent police complaints authorities, and mandated performance evaluations, citizen charters, and crime statistics units. 2. Modernization and technology. Forensic science. Establishment of provincial forensic laboratories. By 2020, Pakistan had 5 regional labs equipped for DNA, ballistics, and toxicology, reducing case backlogs by approximately 30% in major urban centers. Information systems. Launch of the Crime Investigation System, CRIS, under the National Database and Registration Authority NADRA, linking fingerprints, vehicle registrations, and criminal records. This aligns with rational legal, Weberian bureaucratic principles, emphasizing documentation and standardized procedures. Safe City projects. Islamabad, Lahore, and Peshawar now feature integrated camera networks, automated license plate readers, and control rooms, with Lahore reporting a 12% drop in street crime within the first year of operation. 3. Community and specialized policing. Women's police stations. Starting in 2004, provinces progressively opened over 200 women's police centers focused on gender-based violence. This shift reflects feminist criminology, recognizing that traditional policing neglected female victims. Community liaison committees. Piloted under UNDP and local NGOs, these committees aim to rebuild public trust, countering the US versus them mentality highlighted by conflict theory. Early evaluations in Karachi showed a 15% increase in crime reporting by residents. 4. Accountability and Oversight Police Complaints Authorities, PCAs. Established at provincial and district levels, PCAs provide civilian review of misconduct. From 2005 to 2023, PCAs registered over 8,000 complaints, resolving or partially resolving 65%, an improvement from under 10% prior to 2002 reforms. Judicial oversight. The Supreme Court's 2018 suo motu actions on extrajudicial killings forced provincial governments to publish encounter data publicly, reinforcing the due process strand of legalist theory. 5. Training and professionalization. Police colleges and academies. Pakistan now operates 7 regional training institutions, offering courses in human rights, cybercrime, and community policing, integrating positivist criminology approaches, e.g., offender profiling, risk assessment, into curricula. International cooperation. Through China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC projects, and Interpol partnerships, Pakistani officers receive training in counterterrorism, digital forensics, and crowd control. Question 6. What are the legal and ethical guidelines for investigating gender-based crimes? Explain your answer with the help of suitable examples. Answer. Investigating gender-based crimes, such as intimate partner violence, sexual assault, trafficking, and hate crimes, requires adherence to both stringent legal frameworks and deeper ethical principles. First, legal guidelines. First, International Conventions and Treaties Istanbul Convention. Council of Europe, 2011. Establishes obligations for prevention, protection, and prosecution of violence against women and domestic violence. Signatory states must criminalize various forms of gender-based violence and implement specialized training for law enforcement. United Nations Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, 1993. Calls on states to prosecute perpetrators and provide legal remedies to survivors. Second national legislation specialized laws. For example, India's Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, 2005, allows survivors to obtain protection orders, residence orders, and monetary relief. In the U.S., the Violence Against Women Act, 1994, reauthorized 2022, funds specialized police units and victim services. Mandatory reporting and evidence protocols. In South Africa, the Sexual Offences Act, 2007 mandates that healthcare providers report sexual offenses and collect forensic evidence under a standardized protocol to preserve chain of custody. 3. Due process and rights of the accused investigators must uphold the presumption of innocence, secure warrants for searches or seizures, and avoid coercive interrogation tactics. Failure to do so risks evidence being excluded under the exclusionary rule, e.g., U.S. v. Davis, 2019. Second, ethical guidelines. First, trauma-informed and victim-centered approaches. Principle, recognize the impact of trauma on memory behavior and communication application. Use open-ended, non-leading questions when interviewing survivors of sexual assault. Allow sufficient breaks. Offer the presence of a support person. Studies show that trauma-informed interviews increase disclosure rates by up to 30%. 2. Confidentiality and informed consent principle. Protect the privacy of survivors, especially in sensitive cases, e.g., sexual violence, LGBTQ+ hate crimes. Application: seal records, anonymize reports, and obtain explicit consent before sharing information with third parties, e.g., media, NGOs. Breaches can re-traumatize victims and undermine trust. 3. Neutrality and non-bias principle. Avoid gender stereotypes, e.g., real men don't cry, and victim blaming. Application: training on implicit bias for all personnel reduces prejudicial attitudes. In Canada, specialized gender-based violence courts have reported 40% fewer trial delays, in part due to reduced attrition from respectful treatment of complainants. Fourth, cultural competence and intersectionality. Principle: recognize how race, class, sexuality, and disability intersect with gender to shape experiences of crime and justice. Application: The UK's Race and Crime guidance urges officers to adapt communication for non-native speakers and respect religious norms in evidence collection, e.g., modesty concerns during medical exams. 3. Theoretical perspectives. 1. Feminist criminology emphasizes how patriarchal power structures enable gendered violence. Investigations guided by this theory critique traditional neutral policing for invisibilizing women's experiences. Example: New Zealand's Family Violence Prevention Strategy, 2015, restructures police priorities to address power imbalances in domestic abuse. Second, labeling theory highlights how social definitions of victim and offender affect treatment by the criminal justice system. Example: campaigns like #MeToo have challenged the stigma around survivors, leading to better reporting rates, a 20% increase in U.S. sexual assault reports between 2017 and 2019. 3. Conflict theory views gender-based crimes as expressions of social conflict over resources and status. Example: trafficking investigations in Eastern Europe reveal how economic precarity and gendered labor markets intersect. Law enforcement partnerships with NGOs follow conflict theory's emphasis on structural causes. Fourth illustrative case study. In RVA, 2006, UK, the Court of Appeal upheld special measures for vulnerable witnesses under the Youth Justice and Criminal Evidence Act, 1999, such as evidence via video link. This both protected the victim's dignity and preserved the integrity of testimony, exemplifying the fusion of legal safeguards and ethical sensitivity. Question 7. What is meant by forensic criminal investigation? What are the hurdles in streamlining forensic criminal investigations in Pakistan? Answer: in criminology, forensic criminal investigation refers to the application of scientific methods and principles to the detection, collection, analysis, and interpretation of evidence from crime scenes in order to reconstruct events, identify perpetrators, and support legal proceedings. Drawing on disciplines such as biology, DNA profiling, chemistry, toxicology, physics, ballistics, and digital science, cyberforensics, it ensures that investigations move beyond testimonial and circumstantial evidence to objective, laboratory-verified facts. 1. Defining forensic criminal investigation. 1. Evidence collection and preservation, securing the crime scene to prevent contamination, e.g., using gloves, evidence bags, and UV lights for latent fingerprints. Documenting scene layout with photography, video, and detailed sketches. Second, laboratory analysis, DNA profiling. Comparing biological samples, blood, hair, against known profiles. Ballistics. Matching bullets and casings to firearms using comparison microscopes. Toxicology. Screening body fluids for drugs, poisons, or alcohol. Digital forensics. Extracting data from smartphones, computers, and networks. 3. Chain of custody and legal admissibility. Maintaining a continuous, auditable record of who handled each piece of evidence. Presenting expert testimony to translate laboratory findings into court-admissible reports. 4. Theoretical framing systems. Theory views the criminal justice process as interconnected subsystems. Breakdowns in one, e.g., evidence collection, ripple through to prosecution and adjudication. Routine activity theory highlights that ineffective scene management, absence of capable guardianship, increases the risk of evidence loss or tampering. Rational choice theory underscores that offenders weigh the probability of detection. Robust forensic capabilities raise the perceived risks and act as crime deterrents. Second, hurdles in streamlining forensic investigations in Pakistan. Despite significant strides, such as the establishment of the Punjab Forensic Science Agency, PFSA, in 2007, Pakistan faces multiple systemic, technical, and socio-political hurdles. Hurdle description and impact-limited infrastructure. Pakistan has fewer than a dozen fully equipped regional forensic laboratories for over 230 million people. Rural and provincial police stations often rely on basic crime scene kits, delaying analysis by weeks or months. Personnel shortages and training only. 300 forensic scientists are registered nationwide, against an estimated demand of 1,200. Many staff lack postgraduate qualifications and specialized training, e.g., advanced DNA techniques. Backlog of cases. PFSA alone reports an annual inflow of 25,000 cases, with a backlog exceeding 7,000 pending analyses, causing delays that undermine timely justice and risk evidence degradation. Chain of custody breakdowns. Poorly standardized procedures at provincial and district levels lead to lost or contaminated samples. Roughly 15% of submitted evidence is rejected in court due to procedural lapses. Financial constraints. Federal and provincial allocations amount to less than 0.1% of total criminal justice budgets, limiting modernization, e.g., acquisition of next-generation sequencers or ballistic imaging systems. Legislative and regulatory gaps. Outdated Evidence Act from 1872 lacks clear provisions for digital forensics. No uniform national forensic accreditation standard, resulting in variable quality across provinces. Political interference and corruption. High-profile cases sometimes see undue pressure on forensic teams to deliver politically expedient results. Intimidation of experts leads to skewed reports or reluctance to testify. Third illustrative example. Consider a homicide in rural Sindh where only an initial blood typing kit rather than DNA sequencing was available. Because the sample was stored at ambient temperature for over 2 weeks, microbial contamination rendered it unusable in court, and the suspect, identified on weak eyewitness testimony, was acquitted. Under systems theory, the breakdown at the crime scene management and lab stages undermined the entire justice process. Fourth, recommendations from a criminological perspective: capacity building. Prioritize recruitment and advanced training, e.g., partnerships with Interpol's Forensic Science Institutes to raise the scientist-to-case ratio toward international norms, 1 to 200 cases. Standardization and accreditation. Enact a National Forensic Services Act to establish uniform protocols and mandatory accreditation, ISO/IEC 17025. Digital Forensics Unit. Form dedicated cyber forensics wings within each provincial agency, with specialized staff and up-to-date tools. Q8. What is the role of community policing in curtailing the problem of crime in Pakistan? Answer. Community policing represents a paradigm shift from reactive, incident-driven law enforcement to a proactive, partnership-oriented model. Underpinned by core criminological theories, social disorganization, routine activity, procedural justice, strain, feminist, restorative justice, collective efficacy, broken windows, and problem-oriented policing. This approach seeks to rebuild trust, strengthen informal social controls, and address root causes of offending. In Pakistan's urban and rural contexts alike, community policing has yielded measurable gains in crime reduction, public confidence and social cohesion. Below are 10 key roles it plays in curtailing crime. 1. Rebuilding informal social controls. Theory, social disorganization, example, and data. In Karachi, the Citizen Police Liaison Committee, CPLC, has coordinated over 200,000 citizen police interactions since 1989, mediating 15,000-plus neighborhood disputes. Between 2015 and 2020, targeted districts saw a 20% reduction in street robberies as community watch groups patrolled in partnership with beat officers. 2. Increasing capable guardianship. Theory, routine activity, example, and data. Islamabad's emergency response centers and mobile app Police 15 have enabled over 100,000 rapid dispatches since 2021. Urban crime reporting rose from 18,000 incidents in 2021 to 25,000 in 2024, reflecting both higher reporting and deterrence through visible guardianship. 3. Enhancing police legitimacy theory. Procedural justice example and data. Punjab Police's Police Citizen Councils convened 500-plus town hall meetings in 2023, leading to a 35% increase in voluntary tip-offs and witness statements. Surveys indicate over 60% of participants now view local officers as more approachable and fair. 4th, targeting hotspots with data-driven POP theory. Problem-oriented policing example. And data, Lahore's Safe City project used joint police community analysis to redesign street lighting and patrol patterns in the Anarkali market. Nighttime robberies fell by 25% in 6 months through this focused intervention. Addressing strain through youth engagement theory. Strain theory. Example and data. In Peshawar, police partnered with NGOs to launch 12 vocational training centers in 2022. By mid-2024, over 2,000 at-risk youths had received skills training, coinciding with a 15% drop in gang-related violent incidents in those precincts. 6. Fostering gender-responsive policing theory. Feminist criminology example. And data, Punjab's women's police desks, staffed exclusively by female officers, handled a 30% rise in domestic violence complaints between 2022 and 2024. Confidential reporting and immediate referrals to legal aid improved victim support and prosecution rates. 7. Utilizing restorative justice panels theory. Restorative justice example and data. In parts of Sindh, community policing teams convene local mediation panels to resolve low-level disputes. During 2023, these panels settled over 500 conflicts, ranging from property damage to neighborhood quarrels, preventing escalation into retaliatory crimes. 8. Promoting collective efficacy theory. Collective efficacy example. And data, Rawalpindi's volunteer-run neighborhood watch groups now operate in 12 sectors, coordinating daily with beat officers. Their presence has correlated with a 22% reduction in opportunistic thefts since 2021, as residents feel empowered to intervene and report. 9. Enforcing broken windows through environmental design theory. Broken windows example and data. Quetta's joint cleanup and graffiti removal campaigns, organized by police and youth volunteers, addressed minor disorder in public spaces. Cleanup drives and repaired street furniture led to a 12% decline in vandalism and petty theft over 18 months. 10th. Building information sharing networks. Theory, network theory and routine activity. Example and data, Karachi's WhatsApp watch groups link residents and officers across 50 neighborhoods. Real-time alerts on mobile snatching trends helped lower such incidents by 18% in 2023, as citizens adjusted routines and officers deployed strategically. By aligning operations with established criminological frameworks and embedding police within the social fabric, community policing in Pakistan has moved beyond short-term crackdowns to sustainable crime prevention. Its success hinges on continued investment in training, civilian oversight, technology, and inclusive programs.